Hey everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm going to be discussing in this video the last days deception. Now, I do believe that we currently are in the last days. I believe that the last days have been since Paul talked about the last days. I also believe that the last days have been since Christ himself spoke of the last days and us understanding the times and the seasons. So what do I mean by the last days deception? Well, you see, several years ago, there was a series of books that came out called Left Behind. And then, not too long after that, another series of books came out. And I don't remember the title of the books, but the author is Frank Peretti. So he did books on, the rapture and the last days and the return of Christ. And then you had several movies coming out about the last days. And now, I'm not saying anything about the motives of these people that wrote these books and made these movies. I don't know, but I do know that they got pretty rich off of it, okay? Well, anyway, I guess so that they can live in luxury, for the time that was remaining, and then gone into heaven, I guess. I don't know. But at any rate, I was watching TBN yesterday, and Jan Crouch was on there with Franklin Graham, Billy Graham's son. And it was very interesting because they began to speak about the last days. And as I watched this program, I saw something that was very interesting because what they were saying did not match what I was seeing. So, if I were to come up to you and just be laughing and be like, and you say, what's wrong with you? What's so funny? And then I would respond with, I'm so sad. You see, what I'm saying would not match with what you were seeing. So when I was watching that program, Jan Crouch, you had on these big old outrageous looking purple flower earrings. And of course, the big hair and everything, which, I looked at it and at first when I saw it, I said, oh, that's kind of cute. But then I kept looking and I said, what in the world? But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So she was like, Jesus is coming back soon. And I looked at these big old earrings and this big old beautiful church they were sitting in and the big old cameras they were talking about who were, that was going around the world to spread the gospel, and the big old satellites just up in just big old everything, and it just didn't match with Jesus is coming back soon. Thus, I say the last days deception, because what they were doing is actually playing on the emotions of people and using the last days as a deception to get, bottom line, your money. So, and let me just throw this in here. Let me throw this in here because I know that Graham and Jan is from two different camps, okay? There is a merger that has happened right under our noses. You see, the Graham camp is the once saved, always saved camp. The Jan camp is that good old-fashioned Pentecostal, backsliding, you lose your salvation and get resaved over and over again camp. Okay? I know that. But this merger has taken place right under our noses, right before our eyes, and we really haven't even, and we still sitting there watching TBN, and we still sitting there watching and still supporting and still behind them. Like, how did that merger happen? You know what I'm saying? What happened? Nobody told me that there was going to be a merger. All right? But at any rate, so we got this, Jesus is coming back soon, which doesn't match with the big purple earrings. It doesn't matter. You see, I was here back in the 70s, and I remember people on the street corners, in the Bay Area and where I was, and proclaiming the gospel and saying that Jesus was coming back soon and passing out tracts. But there was no, monetary motivation behind that. These are the last days. And there is a deception happening because people are playing on our emotions. Those of us who are really knowing that these are the last days, others are coming out with all kinds of manipulation and all kinds of things to get us to support what they're doing in the name of the last days. And it is a deception. Y'all, thank you so much for tuning in, and be blessed.